In this course from ITFreeTraining, I will look at Dynamic Host Configuration Protocol, or better known as DHCP. Before I look at what is covered in this course, I will first look at what exactly is DHCP. To put DHCP in its most simple terms, it is a system used to automatically configure network devices. Consider you have a DHCP server on your network. On this network, you have a number of devices: a computer, a phone, and a printer. In order for these devices to communicate on the network, they need network configuration. This is where DHCP comes into play. DHCP provides network configuration to the devices on your network. Once a device has obtained network configuration from a DHCP server, the device can use this network configuration to communicate on the network. Before DHCP, the administrator had to manually configure each device. On large networks with a lot of devices, this required all the configuration to be manually recorded by the administrator. For example, the list may have been stored using an Excel spreadsheet. It was up to the administrator to make sure the list was kept up to date. When a new device was configured on the network, it was up to the administrator to ensure that device was not using an IP address that was already in use on the network. On small networks, this was possible. However, on larger networks, this became harder to manage. Also, if configuration of a device on the network needed to change, the administrator needed to visit each device and manually change the configuration. With manual configuration, there was always the chance of mistakes being made. A device configured incorrectly may have problems accessing the network or not be able to access the network at all. There are a lot of advantages of DHCP over manual configuration. These include network configuration being able to be supplied automatically. Using automatic configuration, devices on the network are always configured correctly, assuming the DHCP server is configured correctly. The next advantage is that configuration of devices on the network can easily and centrally be changed. If, for example, the IP address of a DNS server were to change, it is a simple matter to change the configuration on the DHCP server to reflect this. After the change is made, given enough time, the DHCP server will update all the devices on the network with the new configuration. The last advantage of DHCP is that network configuration can easily be changed. For example, if you have a laptop that moves from one network to another, the laptop can automatically obtain network configuration for that network. This also applies to mobile devices like tablets that access wireless networks. DHCP is the protocol that provides configuration to the device so they can connect to different wireless networks. You can see that it is worth the time to learn and use DHCP. Now that we understand a bit about what DHCP is, I will next look at what this course will cover. To start with, I will look at how DHCP works. There are a few components that make up DHCP, and it is important to understand how these work. Following this, I will look at installing DHCP. This is an easy process. However, if you are using Microsoft DHCP and Active Directory, there is an extra step you will need to do before you can start using DHCP on the network. Next, I will look at creating a scope. A scope is a pool of free IP addresses that gets allocated to devices on the network. In some cases, you will want a device that always has the same IP address. When this occurs, I will look at how to create a reservation. This will ensure that the same IP address is always allocated to the same device. Next, I will look at how to use DHCP and PXE. PXE allows a device to boot from the network. Diskless workstations require files to be downloaded from the network in order to operate. In other cases, you may want to use PXE, for example, when performing an install from the network. DHCP, as we will see, uses broadcasts or multicasts to communicate. This works well on a local network, but remote clients will not be able to access the DHCP server. I will look at a DHCP relay agent. This allows a client on a remote network to access a DHCP server when they do not have direct access to it. Next, I will look at the DHCP database. This contains all the network configuration that has been allocated on the network. It is useful to know how this works in case you need to move a DHCP install from one server to another or have problems with the database. Following this, I will look at how to prevent unauthorized access. DHCP is a great time saver for administrators. However, it can also allow an unauthorized device to connect to the network and obtain access. In some cases, you may want to make it easy for a device to access a network, for example, a free wireless access point. In other cases, for example, a company environment, you will want to put some security on DHCP to prevent unauthorized access. The last topic that I will look at is statistics, auditing, log file, and troubleshooting. This will help you manage your DHCP server and thus your network. That's all the topics for the course. If you find something missing, feel free to let us know and we will look at adding it. Until the next video, I would like to thank you for watching the first free video in the DHCP course. I hope to see you in the next video. All videos in this course are free. Thanks, and see you next time.